Dr. Hope, and welcome to my week one contribution for the hashtag Seek, Gather, Create challenge on YouTube. This is a mixed media scavenger hunt. I'll tell you about the host in a little bit, but basically, you have to find four things and then incorporate them into some kind of mixed media art. And the first thing was something from nature. So I had a couple of dried things: hydrangea flowers, a seed pod, and a stick. I'm not going to use the stick. You needed something patterned, and I decided to go for the recycling and grab these envelopes. I love the pattern inside a security envelope. A rainbow. I immediately thought of this hand carved stamp I have that kind of looks like a rainbow. It's a super simple stamp to carve, y'all. And then the last thing is something clear. And since actually, this was the first thing I thought of, was using the clear parts of these bills envelopes. So I'm pulling out this little bit. I've got that other envelope too. The second envelope, the clear part just tore. So this first part is the one I'm going to use. But that's kind of what pointed me in the direction of using the actual rest of the envelope too for my pattern part. So my initial thought was to take my something from nature. Like I said, it is some dried hydrangea petals, and then there's like a helicopter seed pod from my Japanese maple tree that I had. And those were things I just had in the house because I can't go outside and really collect anything because I have a broken ankle. It's almost healed, y'all, though. I'm so close to being able to like get around a bit more. As of this week, the doctor told me I can start putting weight on it and walk around with crutches. So I'm super, super excited about that. And hopefully within 2 weeks, I can toss the crutches and keep the boot on and walk around a bit. And I cannot even tell you how super excited I am about that. So, anyway, I just used some things I had in the house that were nature related. So, that's why everything's kind of dried and all that. But I wanted to highlight them and kind of, I don't even know what you would call it, put them inside this little envelope. So I'm using a little bit of matte gel medium just to stick them down so they don't move around in this pocket that I'm creating. It's not really a pocket because I'm going to close all the sides, so it's just kind of a display window. And it's funny because like I said, I'm going to close all the sides. I'm going to stitch them closed. But I think, I haven't watched Lisa's video yet. I just saw her Instagram post, but that's kind of what she did too. So I am smitten with that whole thing that she and I did the same thing. Now, when I say Lisa, I mean Lisa Goddard. She is one of the hosts of this, along with, hold on, I'm pulling it up, along with Tina Hoyes. I don't know how to say your last name, Tina. Laura Dennison and Jana Clennard Harris. I'll have links to all of them below, at least their Instagram, if not their YouTube, if I can find them. So, those are the hosts for the Seek Gather, Create challenge. Now I've pulled out this junk journal I made forever ago. I love this. It tends to lay flat. The signatures are sewn in. And I really love the eco dyed paper I've got on the right. And since I knew I'm using those natural elements, I may end up leaving that paper on the right just the way it is. I thought maybe I would use it and just do something simple on top of it, but I can't bring myself to do anything on that page. So I'm using this piece of music paper on the left, y'all. That piece of music paper is some of my violin music from middle school. So straight up from the 80s. Yeah. And it's just something that was in my stash. It looks like it also got either eco dyed or coffee dyed or tea dyed or something. Because it's grungier than it was previously. And I'm collaging. If you know me, I love to stick down my collage first thing. So I'm using that security envelope and getting it down to that done, check that off my list, as well as there's some dictionary paper. This is a Japanese newspaper that my friend Ginger sent me. What else am I going to stick down in this? I think there's a little piece of some kind of giblet from Tiffany. I'm going to stick Tiffany of Southern Gals Designs. Um, that she sent me in some happy mail. And yeah, just gonna collage this background, cover it up. I'm trying somehow there's some highlighter or something at the top of that page. It could be some ink from another page. I don't know. I wish I had collaged a little bit more. I didn't want to cover up all that pretty music paper. I mean, I'm basically going to, but um, this is just copy paper, like I said, from the 80s, and it is super thin, y'all. I could feel it giving. I'm fortunate that there was nothing on the back of it because it gets, yeah, this is going to go through the ringer. So let's see, I've got those to glue down, and then I'm pulling out some walnut ink crystals. The other day I pulled out a couple of supplies that I forget that I have. I had pulled out some expanding mousse I used in my last video. That video is pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with how that came together. I'm going to put a link to that up here in the right corner if in case you missed it. But anyway, I had used the expanding mousse, but I'd also pulled out my walnut ink crystals. So I put those down and just wet them and moved it around, trying to just get some grungy awesomeness in this. And then I'm gonna make this page a little bit more cohesive with some gesso. So I put it down on my underpaper, and then I've got this, it's from the Dollar Tree. It's a mask spreading wand or something. Lisa Goddard, one of the hosts, uses something like this all the time with her matte gel medium. I think that's what she uses it with. And hers is possibly an actual mixed media tool, but this is, yeah, some kind of makeup-y thing from the dollar store. And then to spread that out just a little bit more, I'm going to use my brayer. Yeah. And while it's still wet, I'm going to add those walnut ink crystals again in there for another layer of them. And then I'm grabbing, this is some mica, Dilutions mica spray. I think the color is Turquoise Vive or Viva, something like that. And if you know me, I have to put a little bit of blue in everything. I don't know why. I don't mean to do it. I just gravitate toward it, and it doesn't really go with this page in the end, but because it's just this mica spray, it's just like a little hint of sparkly blue in the background. But I use that to kind of wet those walnut ink crystals, and it didn't do quite the job, so I'm going to use my distress sprayer to get it some more, and then just use gravity to move all of that around. Now this, if you can tell by the time it took me to do this, was not the most, I don't know, it didn't just fall together. It didn't come together quickly or easily. It was a struggle the whole way through. I thought since I immediately knew what my 4 items were going to be for this, that it was going to be super easy. It was not. And I'm mostly happy with what I have in the end, but I don't know what I envisioned. I just really like the supplies I used. And that's kind of the point sometimes of creating. If, pull out some supplies you like or want to use and just see what you can do with them. If they're just sitting around lingering, they're not doing anybody any good. So use them. So, and that, y'all, I'm going to announce my 100-day project next week, and that's kind of some of what my 100-day project's going to be about a little bit. We'll get into it. I'm hoping to do a blog post on Monday or Tuesday about what it's going to be. So here I'm bringing in my hand carved rainbow stamp, and this is Stays On in, I think the color is Ganache. So it's a dark brown, so like a chocolate ganache. Now I'm hungry. Okay, and I'm just getting my rainbow down in a couple spots to add some texture and a little more patterning in the background. I love that stamp, y'all. I took a large stamp from the Dollar Tree and just cut it in half, and then just made like a rainbow shape with my carving tool. There I sprayed a little bit of Distress Oxide in Iced Spruce on there, and then kind of took the little nozzly thing out and splashed it on there. And because I was using the natural elements, I decided I wanted some green on this page. Even though those elements are now brown and dried, they used to be beautiful and lively, and to me green is very nature. So I splashed on some Amsterdam acrylic ink, and I think that's a light olive hue or light olive green or whatever. And I started to dry it where I had splashed it, but I wanted it to have a little more movement. So I'm taking a bamboo pen and just moving it through those splotches to, I don't know, some of them are getting kind of star shaped, some of them are getting circly shapes on them. There is where I'm getting worried about this page. The gesso had gotten stuck on the back of it. When I was scraping there, I started tearing through the paper, so I stopped there from fiddling with it too much and grabbed just a really, y'all, this is a cheapo ballpoint pen, and I'm going to do some really loose scribbles on there just for, I don't know, just because I wanted it. If you are being compelled to do something in your journal page, do it. That's what your art journal is for, is to experiment and play. And like I said, use those materials you never use that you've just got sitting off to the side for one day. One day may never come. So, yeah, use them. All right. So I'm pulling back in I gave that matte gel medium a little bit time to dry, and I'm pulling back in my clear pieces and my natural elements. And I got some embroidery floss in a green that matched that olive green that's on the page. And I threaded the needle and knotted it. And now it's going to get super fiddly because I'm realizing I need that clear paper, whatever that is, that plastic, to be super taut in order to get the needle through. So I'm going to jump ahead on this, but I am just basically making a running stitch all the way around it. Since this is clear, you see the stitches in the back as well as the front, which poses a problem because I didn't think about how I was going to tie this off. So we'll get to that in a minute. And I got a knot there, and yeah, this was totally fiddly. I had to take my time with it because that plastic totally wanted to tear. Every time I poked a hole in it, it was on the verge of tearing, and I kept telling myself, it'll be okay if it tears. We'll figure it out. So I've got to the end, and I ended up just going in through the first hole. My last stitch went into the first hole I had stitched. Does that make sense? And I left the needle and everything on there and grabbed a little strip of fabric that would help go behind that clear piece so that you can actually see the petals and seed pod that are in there. And I'm just going to use, again, matte gel medium to stick that on there. It took me a minute to figure that out. And I probably could have stitched it onto that fabric, but it was toward the end that I realized I wanted that fabric. So, since I needed a way to tie off this, now what I should have done is left a really long tail and then tied a knot at the corner where I went in. But instead, I'm just going to stitch on this fabric and it's going to hide the back side of that thread. So I'm making, I think, like 5 stitches, just little up and down wonky stitches on the bottom of this fabric. And that helps bring some color onto this fabric too. So that makes it a little more cohesive and not stand out near as much. So I'm going to do these stitches, tie off a quick knot, but I'm going to also put matte gel medium on that to help secure it a little bit more. Now, if you are hanging in there with me on this, I thank you so much. I know this is a super long video. Like I said, I struggled. This was a struggle bus of a of a page for me. I'm hoping the next one I do better because last year, for the first edition of Seek, Gather, Create, I got so inspired a few times. It's fun to take somebody else's materials other people have suggested and try to make something with them, and I really, really enjoy that. So I had to jump in on this one too. All right, so that is stitched down, and once again, matte gel medium. I'm putting it straight on the page about where I think that strip goes, and just sticking it down. And the last thing I'm going to do is look for some kind of sentiment. So I'm going to pull out some book pages and just kind of look through them real quick and find, oh, y'all, I don't even remember what it says. It said it's something like the dearest notion of heaven, which I really thought was pretty because to me, being in nature, being around nature, rainbows and, blue sparkles and all of that really is the notion of heaven. And I'm missing it because I've had this bum foot and can't go outside. So I think having this kind of natural and nature inspired page is, I don't know, been good. reminds me of heaven and getting out there. Okay, so I just glued that down with my glue stick. I felt like the page needed just a little something else. I've grabbed my Sharpie poster pen in black, and I'm just going to make some dots to create a little bit of movement around on the page. And that's going to be it, guys. I hope you I hope you like this, and I thank you for sticking in with me through this whole long struggle bus. I encourage you to go check out all of the hosts. Like I said, I'll have their links below and see what they did with these 4 elements for week 1 of Seek, Gather, Create. Now you go create something beautiful yourself. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Bye.